Breaking news just confirmed by David Ornstein. Manchester City have submitted an official bid for Declan Rice. Now, the bid is worth £80 million plus £10 million in add-ons. I haven't yet seen any official official thing to say how the deal is structured, what the add-ons are, but the race for Declan Rice is heating up, and Manchester City have officially made a bid. Now, with that news, it also came that Arsenal are still set to make a third offer for Declan Rice at some point within the next few hours or the next 48 hours at least. I would expect that bid to come in. Now, guys who are watching and guys in the comment section, let me know your thoughts and feelings on this. I am joined by a special guest who I'm going to get on in just the moment to give his thoughts. However, I just wanted to quickly run over my thoughts on this particular thing. Now, what I would say is the deal is still open. The deal can still be done by Arsenal. Of course, the last thing that you want is for another big team like Manchester City to enter into the fold. But unfortunately, if you're going to get these big deals done, there are going to be other big teams interested in the big name players. And now we are going to see exactly what Arsenal and Edu Gaspar are made of in the transfer market. Can we get this deal done and over the line when we're competing up against the Premier League and Champions League champions from last season, who can also offer large amounts of money and large amounts of wages to Declan Rice, and possibly a starting position within the team as well, now that Gundogan has left for Barcelona. So my thoughts on this is, for us to get this deal done, I am slowly starting to worry that Arsenal need to outbid Manchester City. And the reason why I say that is because if we was to go ahead and match their bids, the thing that's the sticking point for me is the add-ons. And the one thing that I can say about Manchester City and the majority of big deals that get done when it comes to add-ons is that normally add-ons are added based off the fact that you get this money if we win the Premier League, if we win the Champions League, the FA Cup, whatever it may be, or appearance bonuses, whatever it may be, right? And the one thing we can say about Manchester City is, at this moment in time, they do guarantee trophies. So they can say to West Ham, we'll give you £10 million extra in add-ons if we win the Premier League, if we win the Champions League, because West Ham are almost guaranteed that money. With Arsenal, it's a different story altogether. We haven't won a trophy in 3 years. We haven't won the Premier League in 19 years. And we have never won a Champions League since it's been called the Champions League. So the way we structure the deal will be the sticking point. How much money can we offer up front? And also Declan Rice will also be a sticking point to this, I feel, as well, and his preference. Now, everybody's talking about how he only wants to stay in London. His preference is Arsenal. And while I understand that, I also feel as well that Manchester City wouldn't have made an official bid if they didn't think they could convince the player to join them instead. So I'm a little bit worried. I ain't going to lie. I'm a little bit worried, and we're going to see over the next couple of days exactly how this is going to go. Guys, in the comment section, of course, make sure you're slapping up the likes as usual. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We hit 1,000 subscribers today, which is a great milestone, and I want to keep it going. But yes, Manchester City have made an official bid for Declan Rice, and I'm going to get African Gooner on to give me his thoughts and feelings on this one. Oh, there we
What's
go.
happening, Brandon?
Breaking news, African. I was just getting ready to go to
Yeah,
bed with my
me too.
newborn and my
Me
missus,
too.
and then David Ornstein drops the bomb like that.
So, firstly, I wanted to say congratulations on hitting to the 1K mark. Super proud of you, and definitely deserved. Keep the hard work going, and yeah, congrats on the little one as well. I know it's your third. Adding another gooner to the family, so that's great to hear, man.
Well, we
Congratulations.
say Guna. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well,
You know, you know how it goes, bro. You know, when you're a child, you just kind of support whoever's winning at the time. So we
I
definitely
mean, it wasn't like that for me, but I guess it is like that for some people.
it's kind of
So
like that. I mean, we definitely know he's not going to support Tottenham because they don't win anything.
yeah, yeah.
But maybe Man City. So hopefully
Okay.
we can change our fortunes.
Yeah, you just need to have a lot of Arsenal propaganda around the house, and it'll just happen. It'll seem natural, but it was all planned. It was all planned. No, no, good to hear, man. Really happy for you. But yeah, just like you said, man, just saw David Ornstein's tweet, was getting ready to go to bed, and I saw that you were gonna do a stream, and I was like, look, I have to vent about it or talk about it because it's gonna be really hard to go to sleep right now. Not that I'm like super worried, but it just, we kind of knew that this was going to happen, and then it wasn't happening, like, so we were told this was going to happen maybe 5-6 days ago, that the bid was coming, that DiMarzio said that the deal was advanced with Man City, and then it went kind of quiet. We heard that there was going to be imminent bids, and we didn't hear anything over the weekend. So like in my mind, I kind of felt like, okay, maybe it was kind of horseplay, and it was just a kind of a strategic tactic to get Arsenal to place a higher bid. And voila, Man City actually placed the bid. It's actually a really bad bid considering the fact that we placed two bids, and they pretty much matched our 90 million, and they did 80 million plus 10 million in add-ons. I don't think there's any information about the breakdown of the installments, but from what I read just recently, it seems like it's going to be rejected because West Ham want the 100 million. And as you mentioned, Arsenal are going to be coming in with their third bid, as Fabrizio Romano reported, and hoping that that's tomorrow. I can't wait 48 hours. That's going to be too long. It needs to come in tomorrow. It needs to be the 100 million, maybe the 90 million upfront plus 10 million in add-ons over maybe 3 years, because I think the 2 years is just super unrealistic. And then hopefully that bid gets accepted, and then we'll see. I think Man City come in and match the bid, and they'll get accepted as well. And then I think it'll just come down to the player and what he chooses. And let's not get this wrong. If Declan Rice chooses Arsenal over Man City, it'll be a huge coup for us in terms of like confidence, in terms of just our branding, et cetera, our project, and what we've been standing for. It'll just reiterate Arteta's work at the club, and I think it'd be really exciting. Like, if we're being transparent and honest, when's the last time that we actually had a bidding war against Man City for any player? I think that's something that's not spoken about as well, and that, like, it shows progress. I know people don't like to hear about it. It's like, yeah, well, if we don't sign the player, then who cares about bidding against them and stuff? But like, if we're gonna look at the bigger picture, competing against Man City for these top players, that wasn't happening 3-4 years ago. So to me, it's a little sign of progress. Obviously, we need to get the deal done for me to be completely happy, though.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions
Yeah.
that are kind of going around in my head at the moment. I'm sure people that are watching are probably feeling the same way. So my first question is, how much of this do you think is actually like Manchester City seriously want the player? Or do you think it is like kind of a case where City have made the bid to try and drive the price up for Declan Rice, knowing that they're probably not, they're not really going to end up with him because his preference is Arsenal.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to, kind of force our hand to spend more money than what we want to on the player. Like, which side of the fence do you sit on?
Yeah, I'm in the middle because I've been on both sides of the fence in the past 2 weeks. I think originally my thought process was, I think as we spoke about in the last video we were on together on the channel, that Man City, look at Arsenal is Man City's competition, right? Like, look, as much as rivals hate it and will make fun of us, it's the truth. We are the only ones that gave them a run for their money last season in the league and competed against them, and we will compete against them next season as well, without a doubt. So my thinking originally was that, look, they see us as a threat, they see us as competition, and they obviously have, an open checkbook, and the best strategy would be to up the price of Declan Rice so that Arsenal pay more for him, therefore meaning we have less money to spend on other targets, right? So it's like a tactical ploy to weaken Arsenal's transfer kitty. I mean, that was my original thinking, but I think after Gundogan moved to Barca and then seeing the official bid come in, I think it's less of that, and I think it's actually serious, and they actually do want to bring him in and play him in that position because it only naturally makes sense, right? I mean, I don't think they spend that money for him to go on the bench. I think he probably gets he gets more game time that he probably was going to get maybe 2 weeks ago when they didn't know if Gundogan was going to leave or not, right? So I'm kind of stuck in between the two. Like, you read a lot of different things, you hear a lot of different things, and sometimes it just conflicts, and therefore as a fan you become a bit confused on what the actual truth is. But yeah, I think considering we just saw Gundogan go and then the official bid went in, I think it's a bit more serious than maybe originally I had thought.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think it's serious,
Yeah,
a serious bid as
because
well.
you don't put a bid if you're not serious, right? I don't know. The fact that the bid was low is also a bit confusing, right? Because if they knew that Arsenal's bid was rejected at the kind of the same price, and I mean, there's only like a 5 million difference between their bid and our bid in terms of what the add-ons are. Maybe they're more realistic. Maybe the installment, the payments are much better than what we offered. But again, I don't think you make that bid unless you're serious, right? So yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, again, I agree. I do feel like their bid is slightly different to ours because it's kind of like a starting point for Manchester City. They're not going to go ahead and bid more than Arsenal. I feel. I do feel like their bid is probably a better structured bid than Arsenal, and they maybe felt that would be enough, to get Declan Rice. Obviously, that is turning out to not be the case. How much as well, right? Because this is the other worrying factor for me, right? I look at the fact that West Ham are in for Paulinho from
Yeah.
Fulham. They look to be completely, outpriced on him at the moment. That talk about Fulham looking for £80 million for him, which just tells you, how ridiculous the transfer market has gone. How much of a factor do you think Calvin Phillips could play in this deal? Because the one thing that Man City have got that we haven't is they could potentially offer West Ham
Yeah.
money plus Calvin Phillips, which would
Yeah.
kind of give them the Declan Rice replacement. And let's be honest as well, Calvin Phillips isn't a bad player. He just
No, he
hasn't
isn't.
been able to get the time at Manchester City.
So, a couple of points. The first one in regards to you not expecting Man City to bid higher than Arsenal, I disagree on that one. I think I was expecting a higher bid because you already know what was rejected. So why would you bid the same? Like, technically, it's the same bid, right? And I'm not saying that I expected something like much bigger, but maybe like 5 million more, just to be like, okay, it's more, and like just to kind of like test West Ham to see, okay, like what is that? You saying 100, but will you accept 95? Will you accept 97? Like, you know what I mean? Just try to get like as close as you can slowly to the 100 million mark. Maybe that was my expectation, because technically it is a 90 million bid, total package, and that was the same as ours. So I was thinking maybe they go 95, then we go 100, and then they match the 100. And I honestly don't think that Man City is going to go up way above Arsenal. Like, I think once we both hit the 100 mark, I think it'll be a point where even Man City will be like, no, we're not going to pay more than that, even if Arsenal, is in this bidding war. I think both teams are going to be smart enough to realize at a certain point that the money is good enough, and it's either both walk away and West Ham reduces their price, right? In terms of the Calvin Phillips thing, I don't think he's as good as a player as he was when he moved, from Leeds. That's not to say that he's a bad player or a crap player. I just think that he hasn't played, he hasn't had game time. So like just naturally, like he's just not going to be sharp. We don't know much about his fitness. I do hear your point. Like, I mean, it makes sense, right, for West Ham to just get that direct replacement and take the cash instead of just taking the cash from Arsenal and then having to go find a replacement. And as you said, Polina completely overpriced. But I read something about a Juventus player, midfielder that West Ham are actually in for. I don't remember the name. It's not someone I'm super familiar with, but he's also supposed to be a replacement for Declan Rice. So it's an interesting one. I don't. I also read that Calvin Phillips said himself that he didn't want to leave Man City because it's only been one season, and he would feel like it's not right to just give up after one season because he didn't get game time. And I think that's the perspective that all players need to have when you join Manchester City, because the team is just so good. Even the B team could basically join the Premier League and compete for top four. So I think the expectation when you join City is like, look, if I don't get game time, in my first season, I just kind of need to wait it out. If you look at Riyad Mahrez, it was kind of the same deal. He didn't get a lot of game time when he first joined. And if you look at Jack Grealish as well, 100 million, and he was on the bench for a long time. It's only this season that he really started to make it into the starting 11 regularly. So yeah, I don't think Calvin Phillips is going to be willing to go to West Ham, and therefore, if the player isn't willing to be part of the deal, then I don't think he actually gets offered in it. But yeah, it's an interesting point. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Kind of. I agree that I don't think Calvin Phillips will want to leave Manchester City. I mean, who would want to leave Manchester City? You just want to travel without really, kicking a ball. And of course, you're going to want to try and fight your way into that team. But if there is like genuinely not much chance of him getting into that team, I don't see why he would, honestly sit there and say, I'm going to stay for another season just to be sat on the bench and not really featuring within the squad. I think at some point he's going to have to kind of look at his career. I also feel like from a West Ham's perspective as well, if they was to be offered Calvin Phillips, I think they would take that, because the one problem that West Ham are going to have is it's very well known that they want £100 million for Declan Rice. They're more than likely going to, receive £100 million for Declan Rice from either Man City or Arsenal, or even another club if, we see another club come in late on.
I don't think so. I think it'll just be Arsenal and Man City, but yeah.
I agree, yeah, I agree. But so when it comes to replacing Declan Rice, and we've already seen it with Fulham, they're going to put big prices on these players' head because they know that Manchester City have got that sort of money. Manchester City, West Ham have got that sort of money to spend on a replacement, especially with them asking for more cash up front than it being structured over a period of time. So I just feel like that's probably more of an appealing deal for West Ham than receiving complete and utter cash up front, getting completely outpriced on the market for other players, or overpaying for other players. It's probably better for them to receive some money plus Calvin Phillips. And you're right, it all comes down to, does Calvin Phillips want to leave? Will he actually go to West Ham? So it's kind of an intriguing one.
Can I rebuttal to that? Because just I have a couple of thoughts. So I think the first one is, how much is Calvin Phillips worth? Because if they offer him, how much cash are they going to get, right? And is that cash going to be like substantial enough to actually go and buy other players that they need to improve their overall squad, right? I think that's the first question. The second question is, we actually don't know that they might have already negotiated and already have deals in place to replace. It just hasn't been executed because they're just waiting, right? Because if I was West Ham, you make a very good point, right, Brandon? Like, look, everyone's going to know you have this much money, right? So you're going to have to pay a lot of money for whoever you try and get. It's kind of like Chelsea in January. Everyone knew the new owner was willing to splash the cash, and that's why Enzo Fernandez, etc., Mudryk, all these players, they just got just crazy money spent on them. So I think that's information that we don't have. Maybe they've already have like deals that they've verbally agreed that just hasn't been spread to the media. It's been very tight-lipped, and they're just going to see how much they can get from Arsenal or Man City, and that money's directly already going wherever it's going to go. And I think the other thing is, I don't think that Calvin Phillips might be such a I don't want to say tangible, but like a juicy offer, because as I said, I think they're more willing to take all the cash and spend it on 2-3 players instead of just spending big on one player to replace him. I think the strategy is going to be to take the 100 million and split it like on 3 players. I think, I mean, that would be sensible, right? And that might also be part of the conversations that they've already had when clubs have come to them and said, look, we know you have 100 million, and they're like, well, the 100 million, the strategy has already been set. We need to spend that 100 million on 3 players. So this is what we're willing to spend on this player, and that's it. And if not, we walk away. I mean, this is how my thinking would be strategically if if West Ham had to figure a way out to replace Declan Rice. Therefore, I don't think Calvin Phillips is I don't think that's actually such a genuine possibility. But again, that's just my bias and my thinking, right? Because if it was us, I would expect us as well to spend 100 million on like maybe 2 really good players. I wouldn't expect us to go spend 100 million on just one player, or like 80% of it on one player. It just wouldn't make sense. And especially considering West Ham is not the same level as Arsenal. Like they have to upgrade their team much more than we do.
Yeah, no, I agree. So my last 2 questions.
Yeah.
My last 2 questions are, number 1, do you think Arsenal will pay the money?
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to get him, but we're going to put the 100 million. We have to. You know how embarrassing it will be if we don't? Like, I mean, we're literally 10 million away. This is our number 1 target. Like, it will just take away all the good that we've seen. You can have your opinion, and not you. I'm just speaking to the audience about Kai Havertz and that signing. Timber seems like a really good deal. That's a good 100 million that we're spending there. So it would look really bad if we don't go and put that money.
Is still there? I think.
Sorry.
There we are.
My internet disconnected. No, I was saying it just wouldn't make sense. It would look really bad. It'd be really embarrassing, especially if we just spent 100 million on 2 players. And some would say Kai Havertz isn't even a player that we should have considered. Then yeah, it's going to be really bad. I think the backlash is going to be bad. So I think we will go and put the 100 million probably tomorrow. I mean, I think just to settle the nerves and stuff, there's definitely some employees at Arsenal that are going through social media right now to kind of get a feel of the reaction online and stuff, and that may play a factor. I know people don't think so, but I do think it does, right? It'll play a factor in how quickly we place the next.
Yeah, I agree. I also agree with your point as well. Manchester City won't overpay. I don't think we've ever seen Manchester City overpay for a player, even though they've got ridiculous amounts of money. I do feel like it will reach the £100 million mark. Both teams will probably have a bid accepted. I'd be more worried about this being like falling into West Ham's favour in terms of like getting more money.
It's already at a level where, look, they also have to be realistic, right? 100 million is a really good deal for them, because initially they wanted 80, now they're getting 100. They can't be too greedy, because if Arsenal and Man City walk away, I don't see any other team coming in with that sort of money. Honestly, we look at Man U. I just read a report today that Man U's looking for him, so I don't see anyone else coming in really.
Yeah, see, I feel like if we was, say, up against Chelsea, that's a different matter altogether, because we've already seen that Chelsea are, willing to pay extra money to get players over the line. So that would be a different matter for me. But I look at the Manchester City thing. They don't overpay for players. We don't overpay for players. So I feel like both teams will end up with bids accepted. Now, that brings me to my next question. Who will Declan Rice be joining? Will he come to Arsenal? Are the rumours of him wanting Arsenal all true? Or will he be a Manchester City player? Which way do you feel this is going to go if it comes
I
down
can't
to
answer
it?
that question because I'm a diehard Arsenal fan, and it's just completely biased, right? I really do want to believe that everything that we've been reading and all the work that we've been doing since January, like I want to trust Edu. You know, when we were hearing that Man City was advanced in negotiations and stuff, I was really hurt and embarrassed, and like, you know, I wasn't Edu out yet, but I was like, look, if we lose out on this signing, there's big question marks on Edu because, you know, we keep missing out on our main targets every summer. Realistically, I mean, that's what's been happening over the past 2-3 seasons. Even though our transfer recruitment has been really, really good, and I'm really, really happy with it. Yeah, so it's a biased response because, of course, I'm an Arsenal fan. I wanted Declan Rice since January, before the window even opened. I just really want it to happen. I would be really bummed out if he does end up at Man City.
I agree. I agree. We've done all the hard work. We've put in all the hard yards. We've done all the negotiations. And if Manchester City just come and, kind of steal him off of us, it will be extremely embarrassing, especially, when, like you say, he's our main target. He's a player that every Arsenal fan wants. And, I feel like we need as well, especially if we're moving on Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka.
So
But I just have
you didn't say if you think he's going to end up at Arsenal.
I just have a horrible feeling that he's going to go City, mate. I really do. Because if you look at
We're
it,
traumatized, Brandon. We're traumatized by so many years of watching this club.
it is. And
Yeah,
if you
no,
look
I
at it in
know.
the cold light of day, if you be completely honest with yourself, if you're a professional footballer playing at the level that Declan Rice is, and you have Arsenal and Manchester City coming in for you, you have to kind of weigh up, what you can get out of both of them teams. At this precise moment in time, Manchester City are winning trophies at a ridiculous level. They're the Premier League and Champions League champions, the FA Cup champions. They've just won a treble. They've just sold their captain and their leader of their team, and maybe they're looking at that as a factor. Declan Rice being the leader at West Ham, he will maybe, be the player that they bring in to fill the void that Gundogan is going to leave in that particular position. And if I'm Declan Rice, I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, Arsenal, is a good project. It's a not, it looks good. They did really well last season. The players that they've got are only going to get better. However, what am I here for? I'm here for trophies. Do I see
Yeah.
Arsenal out competing Manchester City over the next 5-10 years in terms of trophies? Probably not. And I know I want to stay in London, ideally, but let's be honest, Manchester is not that far from London, and it's not like I've got to up and leave and move countries and try and get used to a different culture. I'm still going to remain in England. It's just a different location. So I just have that feeling, that he's going to
Yeah.
go Man City.
If that's the thinking, then every single player will always choose Man City over every single club. Forget about Arsenal. I mean, in any, you know, battle for a player, if Man City is involved, where pretty much everyone is saying, "Oh well, we can't compete. Our hands are tied. How can you compete against that?" So I don't know if that's the right mentality to have. For me, if I was Declan Rice, the number one thing is game time. If Man City tell him that he's starting every game, pretty much, uh, he's going to be playing every game, then I can understand why he goes to Man City. But if Arsenal, which we definitely are telling him that he's starting every game, and he doesn't have that at Man City, I can see why he chooses Arsenal for Man City. That's the only reason I can see him choose Arsenal for Man City. The other possibility is the fact that I think Declan Rice is a very loyal player. We talk about the leadership, we talk about the characteristics, we talk about the values. He seems like a player that has a lot of loyalty. I know when we talk about, football and money and stuff, there's not so much loyalty, right? I mean, a lot of people can get swayed by money. That's why we're seeing a lot of these players go to Saudi Arabia. But truly, I do feel that a part of Declan Rice has that level of loyalty to be like, look, there isn't much different. Like, I mean, you know, he's going to earn a lot of money whether he goes to Man City or to Arsenal, and it'll therefore come down to the conversations that he had, right? If Arsenal were like dead on for him and actually had these conversations with him since January, and Man City just started to come into the picture because they just realized that Gundogan was going to leave, does that play a factor in his decision making? Because Arsenal was there all along. We showed the interest, we showed the love, we showed the commitment 6-7 months ago, right? And does that play a factor in helping the player choose us? Because we've been, you know what I mean? It's like, it's loyalty, right? Like, we showed that all along, and now we're executing exactly what we planned. So again, like, this is biased because I'm an Arsenal fan and I want him at Arsenal so badly. But that's kind of like the logic that I'm using to help like make a rational decision on why Declan Rice would come to Arsenal over Man City. I mean, as you said, the rest is like, it's not even applied to Arsenal. Any team will feel that way, that look, Man City wins everything over the next 3-4 years. You know, who's really going to compete with them? I do believe we will. I'm not saying that we're going to win all these trophies, because I do agree. I hear your point and I agree with it. Like, Man City will continue winning all the trophies, whereas Arsenal will compete and, you know, maybe not win all the biggest trophies. But if you're playing every single game at Arsenal over Man City, then you probably come to Arsenal, man. At least that's what
Okay. Listen, skills in the chat. I am going to get round to reading the chat. Of course, you know, we just wanted to discuss the breaking news that is Declan Rice and Manchester City making a bid. Before I got round to anything, listen, guys that are watching, guys in the comment section. Firstly, make sure you're slapping the likes up. Secondly, I am going to get round to reading your comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed to the channel already. And I have also put the link in the chat for you guys to come on and have your say and give your thoughts and feelings on this matter as well. Let me know how you feel about it. I'll be doing an extra, say, 25 minutes. So if you go to the top of the chat, it's the pinned comment at the top of the chat, the StreamYard link. Click on the link and it will bring you to StreamYard, and I will bring you on so you can have your say. But big up yourself, Skills. African Guna, is there anything else you want to say on this matter or on any other transfer?
Look, we saw the leaked images of Havertz. I don't know how an individual got access to that, but I think we've seen it with Jorginho, and we saw it with Nicola Pepe as well, I think. So it does happen, and that's really exciting. I think the latest thing that I read is that Arteta is going to play him in the 8 or the 10. So he's not going to be a winger. He's not going to be a false 9. He's either going to be rotation for Odegaard, or he's going to just take Xhaka's place, probably with Rice behind him. And Zinchenko will probably play inverted to kind of fill that hole if Havertz playing in the 8 and he's bombing forward, right? Because I don't think he's going to do a lot of defensive work. In terms of Timber, obviously the second bid went in. I think about around 40 to 45 million euros. He's going to get paid 8 million euros a year, or 8 million pounds a year. I think it's like 120K. I read somewhere it's like the 5th highest in the team, which is very interesting. A lot of shade being thrown at Gabriel for some reason. People have very short memory, thinking that Timber is going to come in and partner with Saliba, which is not going to happen. At least in my eyes, there's no way that happens. I think the center back partnership stays. I mean, it's such a great partnership. And I think Gabriel is such a great player. He gets disrespected too much, in my opinion. So I think Timber comes in as a backup, and I think that bid probably gets accepted in the next day or two. And then, yeah, it's all on the right stuff. I saw some links to Xavi Simons, which I think is quite exciting. I read somewhere that his buyout clause is 5.1 million. I don't know if that applies to PSG or if that applies to everyone else. I think it applies. I read that it only applies to PSG, but then I read somewhere else that, like, to be considered in the race, you just need to match that price, which seems really, really low for a player of his quality. But look, that's one to keep an eye on, because Arsenal might just swoop in. And then also on the Romeo Lavia stuff, apparently Arsenal's been discussing that deal for the past 15 days. No official bid. Liverpool asked for the price. They asked Southampton like, what is it going to take really to sign him? So they've inquired about it, and then I think Chelsea and Man U are kind of in the background. They're not actively pursuing, but they're just like, keeping a close ear to see if there's any movements, and then they might get involved. So I think those are all the things that are happening. Maybe you can touch on Alexis Sanchez got an offer to Saudi Arabia. See if he takes that. He doesn't want to stay at Marseille unless like they can guarantee him that they're going to sign some really good players. And that's actually really funny because that's exactly what he wanted at Arsenal, right? He told the board like, look, I need guarantees for you to sign other star players, right? And we never did, and that's why he left. It would have been interesting to see if he came back to Arsenal. Obviously, Arteta said no. Very interesting. Balogun, price tag 50 million. So we originally read that the Arsenal were putting a 35 million price tag on him. And then I think today we read that the new price tag is 50 million. He left the US camp, by the way, for preseason. So he's like making sure that he's going to be available for the beginning of preseason. Matt Turner is still with the US national team for the next 10 days. So he's going to be late for preseason. And I think that's because he knows that like Ramsdale is just like the ultimate starter, and like, look, there's nothing really he's gonna do to displace him, right? Like, I think he knows his role, and Arsenal know his role, and they're just like, cool, just do your thing with the US and come to us when you're ready. Yeah, I think that's a good roundup. But like, there's some other stuff on Ethan Nwaneri, who's being linked to Chelsea, but I mean, he hasn't really played so much for Arsenal. Like, he's been on the rise. He's like from the academy. Would be interesting if we sell him like Omari Hutchinson. I don't think it's such a significant one for us, but I think some people would have liked to see him being integrated into the preseason. And then also on Charlie Patino, Barcelona are interested, which is really, really interesting, because if Barca are interested in him, like, why are we letting him go? So yeah, that's a good news roundup.
And no doubt, we'll be bringing more content on each individual story that you just kind of, spoke on there, because there's still a long way to go in this transfer
we
window.
just started the transfer window, so it's great to see Arsenal doing all this business early on. I hope it's not like last season where we get a bunch of deals in and then we wait, kind of till the end to kind of finalize some other deals. I want us to be busy throughout, and any opportunity that comes, we should just go for it.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, thank you for coming on and joining me, bro, and giving me your insight. I appreciate it, and we'll no doubt do some more streams together. Later on in the year.
Sounds good.
Cheers, bro. I appreciate it.
Cheers.
So there we go. African Guna giving his insight there into what he feels on the Declan Rice. I'm going to get into your comments. Listen, guys, I'm going to stay on for another 20 minutes. If anybody wants to come on and have their say, I have shared the link to the top of the comment section. All you have to do is click on the link. It will take you straight to StreamYard. Just sign in with your name or your channel name, whatever you want to do. And come backstage, and I'll get you on and get your thoughts and feelings on the Declan Rice thing as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through a few of your comments. Alexis here says, if Arsenal's third bid is not accepted, sack Edu. I agree, because we've had enough time now. We've made 2 bids. They've both been rejected. Now Manchester City have come into the fold. I'm expecting Arsenal to go out there, no more messing around. Don't play games now that Manchester City are involved in negotiations, and offer the money that West Ham want that is going to get accepted. And then we can kind of have a look from there. But the big sticking point has always been for me, will Arsenal pay the money? Lucas says he's going to go to City. I really hope not, bro. But I can't sit here and genuinely sit here and say I'm 100% sure that he's definitely going to join Arsenal as things stand. I've got Rodney in the background. I'll get you on in a sec, bro. I'm just literally going to go through these comments real quick. Footy Chat says, big up Brandon. We got Niall here, says, I think it will get done, mate. But with this news about City, it's turning into a bidding war and a race. We got Skinny in the building. Says good night. Good night. You gone, Skinny? Yeah. Footy Chat says if West Ham accept that offer, then it shows you that the terms we tried to offer them was unrealistic. Someone's job has got to be on the line if we fail to bring Rice in. Again, I'm in total agreement with you, bro. I really, really am. Oliver says we better go in there with the third bid. Just give them the 100 million. Again, Oliver, I agree. Just pay the money and get Declan Rice. If Arsenal really want him, they probably have to go to 110. I don't think we'll have to go that far. I don't see Man City, going above 100. We've got Early Doors Football TV in the chat as well. Big up yourself. The Chronicle says West Ham want Paulinho, by the way, from Fulham. Yeah, I have seen that. Fulham are absolutely overpricing him at the moment. Obviously, knowing that West Ham are going to get the £100 million in. Skill says Gunnar Lee told us Rice will 100% come to Arsenal. He did. He told me that on the stream the other day, so I'll hold him to that. If not, of course, me and him will be having words. So if Gunnar Lee, if you're watching, make sure you know that I will be coming for you if you got this wrong, bro. Rodney. Oh, well, we're going to get Rodney on in a minute, so I won't bother with reading your comments out because you can discuss with me in just a second your feelings. A lot of Edu outs in the chat. Should have dug deeper in your pockets. Blue Cheesy says, I take it you're a West Ham fan, bro. 100 million up front or no deal. West Ham doing smart business. Hope Arsenal will deal exactly the same way as West Ham with any player sales. Yeah, us and player sales are a nightmare. Sacked a lot of them, but would Josh sack any of them? No, I don't think so. So Kroenke's out. There we go. Sacked a lot of them. If Edu fails to get Rice or Caicedo, he needs to leave immediately, and he can take Tim Lewis and Richard Garlick with him. 100%, I agree. Troy, West Ham are in the best position right now. They don't need to sell, and of course, they know the money will come. And then Prince here says Arsenal are not serious. I think Rice will go to City. There we go. We've got a couple of other people joining us in the background as well. I'm going to get Rodney on right now. So again, make sure you're smashing up the likes if you're not already. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well, please. That'll be much appreciated. We hit 1,000 subscribers today. Let's push on to the next milestone. Got Rodney joining me. How are we doing, Rodney?
I'm very well. How are you?
Not too bad, bro. What's your thoughts and feelings on this breaking news about Declan Rice?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a psychiatrist and a psychologist for over 25 years. I've been an Arsenal fan since the days of Ian Wright. Since the days of Ian Wright. What is interesting, I've been watching the patterns of transfer windows since the days of Ian Wright transfer, Ozil's transfer, and the like. And the transition that was made from Highbury to the Emirates, and what the Kroenke said, and they said that basically, of course, after the Emirates, then we're looking to make, of course, you should have some income. Now, what is interesting is a pattern. The pattern that I see, that I've been analyzing, is that every transfer window, you have the same kind of analyst. David Ornstein, Fabrizio, AFTV, and the like. So, from my analysis, is that basically the combined income of the... Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you now.
You
Yeah.
could hear me? Okay. So the combined income of Kroenkes is totaling 30 billion. So now look at the 30 billion. So the interest on the 30 billion, they can easily give just the interest alone, give the boardroom close to 300 to 400 million. And that is fascinating to me because the Kroenkes spent, I think, 256 million English pounds. Yeah, on was what we call a mall. So if you can spend 256 million English pounds on a mall, but yet you can't spend 100 million pounds on rice, that is fascinating. Now, Kroenke's son is fully aware that how close we got to winning the league. I said from the outset, or speaking to a lot of some of my friends, consultants, and so on, and we were discussing and analyzing the mindset of these chairmen, and of course, James, Edu, and alike. Now, Eddie used to play for Arsenal, as we all know. And Edu knows that back in the day, you had Edu, you had Petit, you had Gabriel. Yeah? That was a formidable spine. This is what got them to win 49 games unbeaten. Edu knows that. So therefore, my point I'm making is that imagine, think about this. Imagine you were playing with the likes of Edu, Petit, Gabriel, and you won 49 games unbeaten. And they put you as a, what do you call it, somebody in the boardroom. What would be your advice if you were speaking to Mikel? And what would be your advice if you're speaking to the finance? You would say, presumably, look what's happened, how we won the 49 games. We did a very strong spine. That's number one. Number two is, what they have done is gone the other direction. They are looking to get rid of, supposedly, Xhaka and supposedly Partey. Partey was a formidable force, part of the spine of Arsenal. However, we need to look at now psychologically. Imagine playing in all competitions, like the likes of Bakayo, who is only a young kid, and asking him to be playing day in, day out for over 90 games. You and I, if we are working, would take annual leave. And what is annual leave? Annual leave is for basically giving you a chance to take you away mentally as a form of escapism for you not to be burnt out. So Saka burnt out. Partey was burnt out. This I already knew. And this is why I already knew that Arsenal would never win the league. Because of the fact is, we don't have like for like. So now, if they get rid of Partey and they get rid of Xhaka and get Emil Smith Rowe, and I see where that mindset is going, but is not strong enough. Do you agree with me so far?
100%. 100%.
Okay, so now, the interest from the chairman, they can easily afford to give the boardroom, £500 million. Easy. Now, let me give you an example. During the COVID period, when Arsenal won the FA Cup, they borrowed 60 million from the England government treasury. They said they were losing money, but yet you're worth £30 billion, but you are losing money. So after borrowing that 160 to 180 million pound, they paid that by, I think, January, February the following year. So this is an example of they have money. So the question then becomes the mindset of Kroenke's son and the Kroenkes themselves. We were promised, after selling Highbury and paying off for the Emirates, that would have sufficient funds to upgrade. Has that happened? No. Has it also happened? Now think about this. Has it also happened that when they were trying to break away from the Premiership? Do you remember that? Okay. Now people never analyze this. I have. I knew that Kroenke was in trouble. They must have had an immediate meeting to establish to themselves, hey, these fans are in uproar. Look what we have done. We need to get back the fans back. The question is, why do you want to get the fans back? They were feeling guilty and also feeling paranoid. So this is what they've done. They gave Arsenal something like in the region of 100 to 200 million pounds. So if you analyze that in totality, as I am doing, they have the money. They do not want to spend the money. They want the club to be self-sufficient. And clearly, in this modern day, 2023, you cannot be self-sufficient. If you truly want Arsenal and you're truly passionate about Arsenal, you have to spend big. There's no ifs, there's no buts, nothing at all. The interest alone on 30 billion, they can easily afford to give 500 million pounds. And these are the players that I was suggesting. In fact, let me tell you, this is what I've done. Last year, I sent an email to the chairman prior to the last year transfer window. I said, you need to get Onana. They never replied to my email. This is me writing to the chairman. I've highlighted why. Then shortly afterwards, January window, they were looking for Onana from Everton. So my point is, and this I can guarantee you, if Arsenal, the players I think would be best for Arsenal, get rid of Eddie and Nketiah. If you want to sell Balogun, although I personally think we should keep him, but they're not going to. Buy Osimhen from Napoli. He's £20 million cheaper than Rice. This is, as we all know, he's a prolific goal scorer. His clause is 80 million. You still have 20 million. If you do decide to get rid of Nketiah, you probably get 35 million. If you get rid of Partey, that's a 25 or 30 million. That's 65 million. If you get rid of Saka, probably 20 million. Limit 30 million. That's 90 million pound. That 90 million pound of those sales, you can get either to strengthen that midfield. If you don't get Osimhen, if you don't get Lavia, which is a very good idea, he's young, full of energy, very enthusiastic, very passionate about the game of football. You got Timber. You're choosing to play games with Timber. These young kids, they're not into games. If you start continue playing games with Timber, he would go elsewhere. They have a very short attention span. They would go elsewhere. But mark my words, I said this before the transfer this window, that Arsenal would not get Rice. Rice will go to Man City. And my two justifications for that is that if you analyze throughout the years of when Arsenal does transfer, is either the last minute within the ending of the transfer window, like what they've done with Ozil, I think it was in 2016. So what will happen? They would not get Rice. Throughout the patterns of the transfer windows, whether it's January or the summer transfer windows, they will put out these PR stunts. And there are certain PRs that they get to pull out their message, to put out their message. So therefore, these are the PR stunts that are paid handsomely to give people high palpitation. Not myself, but others. So therefore, what will also happen is that then when it comes to the last minute or the last week or the last 2 weeks of the transfer window, then they're going to start saying, well, look, we couldn't get our targets. Yeah. And that would be their justification because Man City and others are buying and we don't have the power to match them. So how comes then Liverpool? How comes then Man United, who actually are in debt, but they're still spending money? Arsenal is more of a better financial position than Man United, but yet they get their targets. Liverpool, as we all know, they get their targets. So why is it if Arsenal don't spend close to 300 to 400 million pounds, that's a window. If they don't get, that's all they need, 300, 400 million pounds. Osimhen, get a couple of more spine midfields. If you don't get them, I guarantee you, as we are talking, in 2024, Arsenal would not get, let alone third place. They'd be literally fighting for fourth or fifth place. Would you incline to agree with me or disagree?
I don't disagree with you at all, to be honest with you. I do feel like if we don't invest now, we won't maintain where we currently find ourselves. And I also feel, that you don't invest or you don't invest in the right way, you can go backwards. And that's kind of how I feel about it. But listen, Rodney, I appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome.
I love your views on what you're saying as well, and you analyze it very, very well. I am going to have to, kind of ask you to jump out because I have got other people.
No problem.
But listen,
no problem at all.
You're welcome on the channel anytime, bro. So,
I will definitely will do. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to go on your platform, and we can have further discussions moving forward.
100%, definitely.
Okay. Cheers, then, bro. I forgot your name. What's your name, sir?
Brandon.
Brendan. Okay, Brendan. Listen, moving forward, yeah, for sure. All right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, you take care, Brendan. Thank you.
Cheers, Rodney. Cheers.
You're welcome.
Okay, so there we go. Rodney, got scathing thoughts on Arsenal and the way that they're being run there. He doesn't feel like Declan Rice is going to get done. He's got no confidence, by the sounds of it, in the Cronkies and Edu to get things over the line and maintain where Arsenal are going to be. And look, can you blame him? Can you really blame him? You know, we've seen it time and time again. Listen, I'm going to do five more minutes. I'll read through a few more comments as well. I'm just going to get Luca on real quickly. How we doing, Luca?
Yeah, big up, man. Thanks for having me on, man.
No worries, bro. No worries. What's your thoughts, Luca? Man City make a bid for Declan Rice. Are you worried?
For me, look, I'm really, really concerned because quite frankly, look, a lot like I want to be optimistic and hope that we can get Declan Rice done, Brandon. But now seeing all these reports, it's making me not confident. It's just reminding me us the same old Arsenal at the moment. And why is it that we have to be the football club that, quite frankly, takes ages to try and get a bid over a line with Declan Rice? The player, quite frankly, actually wants to come to Arsenal Football Club. And for me, like, if West Ham want the 100 million or plus, just pay the money. It's like, am I confident getting this deal done? I'm not confident. I hope I'm wrong and all that stuff. But it's just, I look at it right now. It's like, why is it every time that we don't seem to get our targets? And this is why I'm not Edu's biggest fan. 8 hours, whenever it is, and for me, we've got to find out whether Edu actually cares about the football club. Because for me, the way I'm looking at the moment at this football club, yes, we've got Kai Havertz. Yes, we've got Timber. It's good to bring players in. But for me, I just feel like if we're going to maintain our position where we came so close last season against Manchester City, then we've got to strengthen in certain areas. And another thing what I don't get, and I'll make a point, is why are we selling Thomas Partey if we're struggling to get Declan Rice at the moment over the line? I thought we're supposed to be competing with Man City. Like, did we not compete them last season? Are people forgetting that we didn't compete with them last season where we just finished 5 points off Man City? Yes, it is progress. Yes, it's a good season. But for me, you've got to gradually keep doing that going into next season. You've got to maintain the position, because if we don't maintain our position, right, then we're going to go backwards. Then because last season, no one expected us to be in a title challenge, and then the aim was to get top 4 and Europa League. And this manager, quite frankly, yes, Arteta, for me, yes, he has improved very well, but for me, he bottled the league when it mattered. And getting back to the Declan Rice saga, I really hope we do get Declan Rice in, because if Edu does not deliver in Declan Rice, then he has to go. Not unless he can find a better player that's better than Declan Rice.
I agree with you, but I just don't see an alternative to Declan Rice. I mean, a lot of Arsenal fans and other people are screaming for Caicedo. But I just don't see Caicedo coming to Arsenal, number one. And I think, you know, that deal will get done with Chelsea. But not only that, Caicedo and Declan Rice are two completely different players for me. You know, Caicedo is more of a destroyer. And this is why, you know, I'm not too... ideally, I'd like Arsenal to sign both. Don't get me wrong. But if they could only choose one, this is why Declan Rice would be my number one choice. It's because he's got more experience in the Premier League. You know, he's been a constant in that West Ham team
about him and all that, and that's something where
his leadership as well. You know, his leadership qualities cannot be underestimated, especially when you think, you know, a lot of our downfall last season came down to a lack of leadership within the team. So, yeah, if we don't get this done, then people have to be held accountable, and you know it's going to start with Edu. I think, you know, and 100%. Arsenal fans have got to wake up to this. You know, if we do not get this deal done, this will be the third big deal in a row that we have gone in for and we have not got done. and that is just unacceptable at a major level at a big club like Arsenal.
But I look at it right now, like 100% agree with you, Brandon. Like, if we don't get this over the line, then it is a massive fail for us, because then it goes to show that a lot of people are going to start pressuring on Edu, and then people are going to be like, what is the aim next season? Like, we're looking at another alternative, Savic from Lazio, but is he really Declan Rice level? I'm not saying Savic is a bad player. I think he's done very well in Serie A for the last few years. But it's not something where us Arsenal fans would want to be excited about. We need someone like a Declan Rice who's going to come in, because what he also brings to the team is steel into that midfield. And that's something what we've not had. He reminds me of a Tony Adams, of an version of a midfield type of Declan Rice. He's got that winning mentality. And when Tony Adams was playing for us back in the day in defence, he reminds me of an equivalent of that.
Okay, it's nice to have you on here, Luca. I know you've been a big, long time, follower of the channel. Yeah. So I appreciate your support. I appreciate everybody in the comments section, everybody that's currently watching as well. Of course, I shouldn't have to remind people, but look, make sure you're slapping up them likes. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're not already. And thanks for jumping on, bro, and giving us your thoughts. There'll be many other streams, where I can get yourself and other people on who want to come on as well. But I'm going to wrap this up because we've been on here just over an hour. So yeah, big up yourself, bro. And I'll chat to you soon.
Chat to you soon. Take care, man. Thank you.
So there we have it. I'm just going to run through a few more of these comments before I wrap this up. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And you are smacking up that like. There is currently 50 people watching at this moment in time. Big news tonight. Big news. Arsenal will go in for Milinkovic-Savic, and AFTV will say it's a good deal. Arsenal have wasted 3 to 4 months on Rice deal, yet they have not signed him. I agree. You cannot be wasting time like this with Arsenal. And I said this, at the beginning. People were saying to me, yeah, but the transfer window isn't open yet. And we're seeing other clubs around the country and around the world doing deals before the transfer window is even open. We've been negotiating for Declan Rice for 6 months. And if we now allow Manchester City to steal him off us, it's going to be an absolute embarrassment for Arsenal. Savic is a good deal if done. Look, I don't think Milinkovic-Savic would be a bad player for Arsenal. But you look at the age and the profile of him, it's not a long-term fix. Declan Rice is still reasonably young. You can get a good 10 years out of him. Maybe not 10 years, but a good 8 years at the top level out of him. So it's worth the while in the money that you're spending. I mean, you could bring in the Savic, but I think if you're going to bring in a Savic, you have to bring in a Savic alongside a Declan Rice or a Caicedo or whatever it may be. But you've got to be looking at long-term replacements, I feel, and top quality long-term replacements. I'm just not sure that we are that serious. And this is what it comes down to, Oliver. Are we a serious football club? We know we're a big club, but a lot of the time, we don't act serious enough. We don't act like we should in the transfer market. Now, I'm hoping that they're going to go and prove us wrong now and get Declan Rice over the line. But we'll just have to wait and see. The next 48 to 72 hours is going to be absolutely critical, for Arsenal. And I expect that if this deal doesn't get done, there's going to be a lot of fans that are very, very, very unhappy. Has the player actually said he wants to come to Arsenal? I keep hearing this, but nothing is set in concrete that he has said this. Exactly. These are all rumours. The rumour is he wants to stay in London. The rumour is he wants only Arsenal. Well, if that was the case, and he made it clear that he only wants Arsenal, I don't think you would have seen Manchester City bid for him full stop. But clearly, you know, they feel that they can convince Declan Rice to go to them instead of us. And that is why, you know, the deal or the bid has been made. What about Barella from Inter as a plan B? Again, Barella, I would take him, but he has to be coming in alongside someone. You know, if Arsenal ended up, let's just say, for example, right, this transfer window, if Arsenal ended up with Timber, Havertz, and Barella or Milinkovic-Savic, let's just say that, right? If we ended up with just them 4 players, but then Granit Xhaka and Thomas Partey were both leaving or both left, then I would say that the squad is weaker. And that's interesting, really, coming from somebody who is by no means a Granit Xhaka fan. And I don't have a massive issue with Arsenal letting Thomas Partey go, providing we replace him with somebody who is an adequate replacement, a top quality replacement. So we're going to find out what this football club is all about. And Music ID, I see you're backstage, bro. I'm literally about to wrap the stream up because I've been on here for an hour and 10 minutes, but I will be doing other streams where I will be getting people on so they can come and have their say. And look, next stream that I can get people on, if you're the first, you know, person in the background and you get clicked on the link straight away, I'll make you the first person that I bring on, bro. So yeah, cheers, buddy. We never get our top targets. They need to sort this out. 100%. Last comment of the night. Is Kai Havertz a good player? We're going to have to wait and find out about that one. Will he fit the Arsenal system? It's clear to see Mikel Arteta wants him. And that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. Man City have made a bid for Declan Rice, as we all know now. Will Arsenal get the job done? Will Arsenal go in, bid the money that is required and get the player over the line? Or is this going to be another failure of a big deal by Arsenal and Edu? Let me know in the comments section, guys. Make sure on the way out you are slapping the likes up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And look, I appreciate all of you. Today has been a very good day for True Gunners TV. We reached 1,000 subscribers, our first milestone, and hopefully many more. That's it, guys. Peace. I'm out.